Hall of Remembrance by the school's War Memorial. They're remembering soldiers, former Kelvin students who made the ultimate sacrifice in the First World War and Second World War. The CBC's Margot Watt was at the school yesterday visiting as students were touring this very special exhibit filled with personal, military, and photographic information. Grade 11 student Gabrielle Young led the tour.
If you don't mind, I will just introduce you to the display that we've prepared for you today. What we have for you is 3 boards full of the names and faces of soldiers from Kelvin that fought and died in the 2 world wars. You'll see there are 235 of them up on the walls out of a total of 280. And of course, this is all right in front of the Kelvin War Memorial, which was constructed along with this school, but part of it is from the original Kelvin High School built in 1912.
My name is Sam Vu. I'm in grade 11, and I am part of the Kelvin History Club. These 2 books, volumes 1 and 2, they have all the names of all 2,348 students of Kelvin High School that participated in the Second World War. These were commissioned by the school just after the war in 1946, and we had an artist paint these beautiful designs on every page, and these are all unique. An interesting story about these books, however, is that this second volume right here was actually stolen from the school 10 years ago. And we had to commission another artist to remake it. That's why this one looks so much newer compared to this. Right, you can clearly see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what the stars are for?
Yes, the names that have purple stars next to them indicate soldiers that were killed in action and never returned. Most of these soldiers are commemorated on our boards over there, and there you can find their photos along with some information surrounding their service.
This is a beautiful book.
My name's Chris Young. I am a history teacher at Kelvin High School. Look at this, Denmark Churchyard. So when I went to Denmark a few years ago, I wanted to visit these 3 cemeteries where 3 Kelvin soldiers or Kelvin airmen were buried. But notice the churchyard, Norge Havrik Churchyard in Denmark. So that's just a local cemetery in northern Denmark. So you think, well, how does a Kelvin airman end up there? How do you think a Kelvin airman ends up there?
Shot, or the plane got shot down.
The plane got shot down over the British Channel, and the bodies washed up on the shore. And so then the Danes said, well, what do we do with this person? And they moved them to the local cemeteries. Yeah. And it's just very powerful when you go into these types of cemeteries that are often hundreds of years old, and you're there and you're looking at this tombstone of a Kelvin student who grew up in the area, and you think, my gosh, how did they end up here? Yeah.
So we're looking at some artifacts from battlefields in northern France from World War I. Most of the stuff we're looking at is barbed wire, right? And that was a big part of warfare in World War I. And we're also looking at a button from a French artillery officer's jacket. And it's very detailed, which is something that came out surprising to me. You can actually see a bomb with all the sparkling and fizzling, detailed and individually. We also have a bullet that's beat up a little bit, and you can tell it's very old, and this is from World War I, right? So over 100 years old. So it's really interesting to see these. This is what was used back then, and it really like makes you think, right? Because like, you know, I'm an immigrant, so like I don't have like a great uncle who served here, so I don't have that like personal connection with the world wars. But you know, to be able to realize that, you know, students of Kelvin and alumni of Kelvin, they served and they protected us. You know, that really makes me grateful to be able to come here and live in a country so great like this.
For our Remembrance Day ceremony, I'm going to be profiling Frances Winifred Spafford, and she is of the 280 Kelvin students who served and died during the 2 world wars. She is the only woman. She was a nurse, and she ended up dying of mysterious illness in England when she was working in the hospital there. And what's particularly sad about the story is that she had a younger brother, Leslie Alvin Spafford, and he's on the board over here because he was part of the Air Force. And 1 year after she died, he ended up dying when his plane was shot down over Nazi Germany. So he's buried in Germany, she's buried in England. And you can just imagine how horrible it was for who? For the parents. And the parents received initially a letter from the Canadian Army informing them of Winifred's death, and then 1 year later, a letter from the Air Force informing them of Winifred's brother's death. They lived on Fleet Street, so maybe 15-minute walk from here.
It brings it so much closer to home. They're from this area of the city. They've walked the same halls we have.
Is it also striking that all of these people, you look at the pictures, they weren't that much older than you?
They really weren't. I think in this day and age, I could never imagine my friends having to go and fight, but the fact that these young men and the one woman over there were so young and they did what they had to do. It's humbling to see these stories and to see the ages and to see, oh, this person was a street over from here. Really reminds you to take a moment on November 11th to remember everything. And it reminds you that we have so much. And the reason we have so much is because of all these people and because of what they've done for us.
That was Ajabi Matthews. We also heard from grade 11 students Ahmed Salam, Sam Vu, and Gabriel Young, rather. Ajabi is in grade 12. They're all at Calvin. I want to thank the history teacher, Chris Young, for sharing stories with us at CBC and with the CBC's Margot Watt from Calvin's Hall of Remembrance. If you're in the school, you will certainly see the hall. Nice way to connect history to today, to Winnipeg, and really make that connection with the students so directly. It is coming up to news time. It's